So
Hello.
today, viewers, I'm with Vicky Jennings, and Vicky is from Talent Dynamics Australia.
Hi.
And she's been doing some great work for the last few years, and I really wanted to share her fantastic information with you. So firstly, Vicky, how did you get introduced to Talent Dynamics? I'm curious.
I went to some workshops in about 2005. I went to a lot of workshops in 2005 about these strategies, and I implemented them in my business. And I grew it from, I was a sole trader, like a consultant, and I grew it from just me to 17 campuses nationally. I have a training company. And so they really worked, and I was so impressed that I bought the license to be able to teach it as well.
Wow, that sounds familiar. Sounds like the Gillette story, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I liked it so much, I bought the company.
Exactly.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And from there, what happened?
Well, then we implemented it in the team. So I hadn't implemented it in the team until I understood the Talent Dynamics paradigm. And when I implemented it in the team, I discovered that everyone was in the wrong position except for me.
Wow.
I was the only one in the right position, so it was quite hilarious, really. So I moved everyone around, and according to their natural talents and strengths, and everyone was a lot happier. Like morale really improved. It was great. And
How did that look?
there was more laughter in the office.
Oh, wow.
They'd
Always good to have laughter, isn't it?
Well, they'd all been stressed out, and like really stressed out because
Yeah.
they were all out of flow, what we call, we talk about being in flow, being out of flow.
And so what is flow?
Flow is like, if you can imagine that you're in a boat and with a group of people, and you're going upstream. We're going against the current, right? It's a lot of hard work. You can do it. You absolutely can do it, but it's really hard work. You've got to really focus. You've got to concentrate. It takes a long time, and you get to the top of the river and you're exhausted and you have nothing left over for anyone or anything. Whereas, so that's out of flow. Whereas, if you turn the boat around and you go down with the current of the river, then you can actually look at the riverbank. You can enjoy the journey along the way. You're just putting your paddle in here and there now and then to, navigate some rocks. And it's really enjoyable, and you're actually energized, and you get to the end of the river, and this time you've actually got more energy. So that's being in flow.
Right. So that'd be like, I remember when I did my profile, and the difference between me doing an Excel spreadsheet, which is pretty hard yakka, to being, I'm a real people person, and I've totally lost my energy when I do anything like that. So that's
exactly. That's exactly what it's about.
So you've got the round pegs in the round holes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what happens is then, as a result of that, everyone's doing what they love and loving what they do. So you never have to work a day in your life.
Oh, wow. Got a nice ring to it, hasn't it?
It has, but it's true, And then everyone loses a sense of time. So everyone is just working and not watching the clock because you're doing what you love.
Yes.
Right? So, in fact, I have to come around the office at night and whack everyone and tell them to go home because, I might be here till 7 o'clock because I'm doing what I love, but they're here too doing what they love. And so we actually have to watch each other and make sure we actually do go home.
Wow.
Because you just get so engrossed in what you're doing, and you're enjoying it so much that time disappears.
So you've also got a training company as well. How is that panning out in your organisation in terms of?
It's how do you mean by panning out? What differences does it make?
Yeah.
After 6 months, we implemented it, and in 6 months after implementation, it actually impacted the bottom line because everyone's doing what they love. They're more productive. Straight away, they're more productive.
Oh, and they'd be at work more often, so you'd have less absenteeism.
Less absenteeism because then we don't get Monday-itis anymore. Do you remember Monday-itis? I worked in a job for 8 years that I hated. I really hated it. And I'd have Monday-itis often.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers out there would know a little bit about Monday-itis.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you eradicate that.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful? And that's one of the reasons I got involved in this, because I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I went through. So...
And just on that, sorry to interrupt, but I just really need to say, I know for me, for years in my work, I've felt like a round peg in a square hole. And the thing was, I was in the wrong jobs.
Yeah.
And I noticed when I came in here that in one of your boardrooms that you actually have everything managed all the projects managed by their profiles.
Yeah, exactly. You've got all of the graphs, because we get a graph for each person, and we put all the graphs up on the around the talent dynamic square. And so when we have our team meetings, we can easily see by the percentages that are on the graphs who would be the best people to undertake the tasks for whatever project or whatever's happening in the business at the time. And the team do that themselves. You don't need a manager to do that. When the team understands all of that, they do that themselves.
So how has it affected the relationship between each of the team members? Because it sounds to me like there'd be better understanding of the value that each person brings to the table.
That's exactly what happens. They understand each other's value and they back each other up. So they leverage their value as well amongst each other innately. They do it without even thinking about it consciously, because they know what everyone's profile is. It's a very simple system. So there's only 8 profiles to remember. That's pretty easy to remember in a team. So it's really easy to remember what your teammates are. And you know what that means, and therefore you know who's best at doing what.
And you know their strengths as well as their challenges.
Absolutely.
So that's where the backup comes.
Yeah, and you find the people that complement you the most, and you work with them the most, the ones that complement, that are different to you, because they're going to have, their strengths are going to be where your challenges are, and vice versa.
Perfect.
Yeah, it works really well. It's so simple.
Yes, and just on that, the simplicity of it, it's a bit hard for people to sometimes get their head around it, because it is such a new concept.
Yeah.
Pretty hard for people to get their head around it, because but my experience of it is it becomes a living, breathing conversation. It becomes very real, and it also applies equally at home, doesn't it? And
It
with
does.
their children.
Relationships with children. We have a tool for kids from 8 years old to 16 years old that really helps to identify their career choices and things like that. But not only that, as a mother, like I have 2 sons, and I've always said they're like chalk and cheese. And when we did their profiles, they are, because they are exactly opposite each other.
Yes.
And that explains so much as a family unit. And if I'd known that when they were younger, would have saved a lot of angst, because we would have really understood where they were coming from and why they were so different.
Yes, and would help you with parenting, which I believe, I'm not a mother, but probably the hardest, I'm sure some of our viewers out there would agree, it's probably one of the hardest jobs going. So as a parent, how would that impact you in terms of how you relate to each of your children when you actually understand their profile?
Well, you can relate to them differently, but also you'll understand why they choose certain activities. Why one of them might love to be with people all the time, which was my son's case, one of my sons. The other one wanted to hide away in his room all the time, and I used to worry about that. But that he was doing exactly what he should be doing naturally. Wow. Because he's an introvert, right, and he loves his own space, and he will communicate, but he'll communicate through the computer, whereas my other son communicates being out there and verbally with people. But if I hadn't had that understanding, I would have saved a lot of worry.
Yes, actually, I found it interesting. One day I was here with Vicky, and one of her sons rang, who is Lord profile. And I was just reminded how, you can take things personally, how people interact with you. So do you want to say more about that?
Well, that profile is very much get to the point, and they don't talk a lot. They don't waste anything, so they don't waste words either. And so they'll be very short and very sharp. Sometimes it can come across as being rude, right, arrogant. But it's not. It's just their form of communication. So actually what we do here, we have someone we call the fluffer. So if someone from that profile, the Lord profile, writes an email, we always get the fluffer who's from your ilk, right? You're a supporter profile. So someone's from your profile to fluff it up.
Okay. Make it a bit more human, people...
Friendly,
yes.
Let's make it more friendly.
Yes.
Because the Lords will just get straight to the point. I mean, it's all correct what they write. It's always very correct because they're really into the detail, and but they just don't. If you can say it in 20 words or 6 words, the Lord will always choose 6.
Wwow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
Whereas
see
you would always choose 20.
Yeah, or 30, whatever,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I might just pause it for a moment.